Hey, what's up, everybody, and welcome to Q&A, the show where I take your questions from YouTube and Twitter and answer them here in video format. A ton of questions to get into, so we're just going to start right away, and we're going to start with a question from Alex, who says, do you expect us to see more Anthony Schwartz again this week or get Donovan Peoples-Jones involved more against the Texans? I think you're going to see more Donovan Peoples-Jones this week. I think partly some of the reason that you saw Anthony Schwartz in versus the Chiefs is, one, you want to kind of take those deep shots versus Kansas City because you want to make sure you can keep up with them. Two, I don't know exactly, and this is just me speculating, so take this with a grain of salt. I don't know how early within the game planning of the week did they know that Odell wasn't going to be available for the team this week. It seemed like there were mixed reports at different points of the week on what his status would ultimately be on Sunday. And then we know on Sunday he didn't play, which left Anthony Schwartz, who is his backup at that X kind of deep shot wide receiver position, to kind of fill in the role. So maybe Anthony Schwartz got the game plan that Odell was going to get, maybe tuned down just a little bit, but maybe that's why he got way more targets than the Donovan Peoples-Jones. Whereas this week, different opponent, different need, a different sense of urgency, and I think that would lead to Donovan Peoples-Jones getting a lot more targets this week. But thank you for the question. Next question comes from JP8 Studios, who says, with Anthony Walker being placed on IR, do you expect JOK to step in and get more reps, or will the team bring in a free agent to come in and fill that hole? Also, which do you think would be better for the team? With Anthony Walker going out, I think the first replacement to be the Mike linebacker is Malcolm Smith. And that's fine. I'm 100% fine with Malcolm Smith stepping in there. And I think they're going to get a little creative with how they use guys like JOK and how they use guys like Ronnie Harrison, and mostly how they use like a John Johnson III to kind of make up for Anthony Walker. Look, I like Anthony Walker. I get that he's a really respected player, and I respect the role that he plays on this team. But if there were somebody to go down on the IR, this is one of those guys that you can replace fairly easily because you have multiple guys who can fill that role for them. So, yeah, Malcolm Smith should step in here at the Mike linebacker position. And I would expect them to, keep it with Taki, JOK, and then Mack Wilson as the other rotation. And I think you're still fine there at linebacker. I don't think there's any need to add anybody to that rotation while Anthony Walker's out. And I think you're at a relatively good place with that linebacking rotation just as is. So that's where I'm at with it. The next question comes from Chicken Milk, who says, hey, Quincy, big fan of your videos. How much of an impact do you think the offensive line injuries will make on the game this weekend? Is there enough depth on the offense to still fire on all cylinders, or do you think the Texans defensive line is good enough to expose those potential weaknesses? Okay, so right now, as of recording this video Saturday morning, Michael Dunn is questionable, Troy Hill is questionable, and Chris Hubbard's out. Jedrick Wills is questionable. J.C. Treader is questionable as well. And so is Anthony Schwartz. So that might answer the whole Donovan Peoples-Jones question. So that's tough there, right? I like the pick for the future, the tackle they got out of Cincinnati. I don't think he's ready yet from what I saw in the preseason to be out there in the NFL. I would almost go with Michael Dunn there at left tackle, but he's also on the injury report. We got to see what happens here. It could just be Jedrick Wills and you'll be fine, right? And nobody would be none the wiser that we had all these injury questions going into this game. But it could be a lot more complicated than that. So that is going to be something to watch, because all of those injuries are one thing, right? To have multiple injuries on a team in week 2, that's normal. But to have all of those injuries concentrated, in one position, which is left tackle, which is a very important position, that's a little concerning there, right? Because you're not going to have Chris Hubbard. You might not have Jedrick Wills. James Hudson's not ready. I don't know what you do there at left tackle there. I know that last year when they ran into a situation like this with one of the guard positions and one of the center positions, they just went to Nick Harris, was guard. When Wyatt Teller went out and then Chris Hubbard went out, and then you lost all of your backups, and then you went to Nick Harris. And they eventually had to replace Nick Harris at guard with like Michael Dunn or somebody else because he just wasn't ready. So if an offensive tackle isn't ready, you really shouldn't put them in there because, you know, it might just be better for the team right now to put in somebody who has less name value or less pedigree, but just might be able to do a more solid job holding that position down. So that is going to be something to look at for this game, right? That is not nothing, the offensive tackle and the O-line injuries going into this game. It could be as simple as Jedrick Wills coming out and playing. It really could be that simple. It didn't look like that was just a 1 week injury when we saw it, but he's questionable. So it's better than out, right? So it could be that simple, or it could be a lot more complicated than that. We'll see on Sunday. It's impossible to project this at this point. The next question comes from Lumps, who says, do you think the Browns are holding OBJ out to facilitate a trade? Past 3 months, all we heard was how great he looked. However, Sunday, that narrative changed. No, I don't think this is the Browns holding him out for a trade. Just because logically, if you're trying to trade Odell, this wouldn't make any sense, right? If he could play and you're holding him out, first off, if he could play and the front office was holding him out for a trade when you have games you need to win right now, then the front office is dysfunctional. So if that is the case, you're telling me that this front office is dysfunctional, or at least doing things that are very stupid. So no, I don't think the team is putting themselves at an adverse winning position just to trade Odell Beckham. That wouldn't make any sense. Also, just when it comes to trade value, he was injured last year. So you want, if you're going to trade for Odell, I would presume, want to see him on the field in some actual NFL games before you trade a healthy package for him. Otherwise, you're going to get, you know, compensatory compensation for Odell Beckham. So you don't want that either. So if they were trying to trade him, holding him out at the beginning of the season just makes absolutely no sense. And again, if that were something that turned out to be true, it would make me question what I think of the front office. That I don't think that's why he's not there. I think the more likely situation he didn't play on Sunday and why he's not playing this week is maybe he did look great throughout camp and they started to ramp him up once camp ended and they started to prepare for Kansas City and he had a setback. I think that's 100% more likely than like the trade conspiracy theories or anything else that anybody brings up, just because it just seems like that's what happened, right? He looked great in training camp. We saw that he looked great in training camp, right? It was open to the public. People saw this for their own two eyes. And then once practice got closed and they started ramping up for Kansas City, a game presumably we thought Odell was going to play in, he probably had a setback, and that's why he didn't play on Sunday and why he's not going to play this Sunday as well. Next question comes from Beep Beep Out of the Way, who says, should the Ravens tank their season if they lose any more key players? Well, you can't waste Lamar's last year on that rookie deal, right? Like, you just can't waste that rookie deal value. Now, here's what I'll say with the Baltimore Ravens, and I have been 100% consistent about this when this wasn't a popular opinion to have about the Ravens, and now to where it is a more popular opinion. You have to keep in mind, this all comes into context that Lamar Jackson was the 32nd overall pick in the NFL draft. So when it comes to Baker Mayfield on his rookie deal, while it is a value, Baker's making what, $20 million a year, and then with his fifth year option, it'd be like 28, and then you would give him the extension, and it would probably be an upgrade of like $10 to $12 million, right? So the jump for Baker Mayfield is only $10 to $12 million between what his rookie deal is right now or is going to be after his fifth year versus what it will be once he gets his extension, if he gets his extension. With Lamar Jackson, it's much different, right? He's the 32nd pick in the draft. So his number is much, much lower. I think it's like 8 million or something like that. It's in the single digits. So the Ravens' benefit of having a MVP caliber quarterback on their rookie deal was much bigger than the Browns, right? Browns from the jump, since they drafted Baker Mayfield number 1 overall, were always going to have to pay at least $20 million to have Baker Mayfield on their roster versus the Ravens, who would have to pay like $8 million because, again, he was the 32nd pick in the NFL draft. So the Ravens not only had the benefit of having a quarterback on their rookie deal, they had the extra benefit of having a quarterback at the end of the first round rookie wage scale deal, which is important, right? Even at 5th year option, it's going to be about $16 million or something for a 32nd overall pick. So they're still getting a discount there. And this is my biggest criticism of the Ravens and my biggest criticism of Eric DeCosta. They have completely wasted all of that extra money that they had. They have not used a single dime of it to improve the offensive line. They have not used a single dime of it to get him some legit 5-star wide receiver help as a quarterback. And, they haven't surrounded him with an offense that is useful, or at least an offense to where he doesn't have to be 100% of the time the best player on it. Then you look at what the Browns did with Baker Mayfield. And I know if you're a Ravens fan, you don't want to hear this compared to the Browns in a negative way, but it's the truth, right? The Browns, even though they have from the jump had to pay Baker Mayfield much more than the Ravens have had to pay Lamar Jackson, have surrounded Baker Mayfield with much more on the offensive side of the ball. They brought in some key offensive linemen. They used a draft pick on the offensive lineman. They used key resources on the offense. They brought in Odell. They brought in Jarvis. The Browns were not messing around when it came to surrounding their quarterback with talent. But then you look at Baltimore. They did not do that in what has happened over the last 3 years. Lamar Jackson might be the best he has ever been as a quarterback. He is throwing the ball well, and I know Browns fans don't like to hear me say that. He's throwing the ball well. He's not perfect as a passer, but he's much better than he was in year one. He's better in the pocket. He's more dynamic. He's still as athletic as he's ever been. Like, you're getting the prime out of Lamar Jackson, but the surrounding cast is the worst it's ever been. That offensive line is terrible. The wide receivers, look, it's going to be an upgrade once Rashad Bateman gets back, but right now it's not really that much more of an upgrade, even though Sammy Watkins and Hollywood Brown were solid in that first game. But I would argue that was more due to Lamar's ability to scramble and let those guys separate versus what those guys were just doing off their own merit. But it's still the same case. They're not a better team than they were when they first got Lamar Jackson. And that's not something that's excusable when you're talking about the rookie quarterback window and when you have the biggest advantage of a rookie quarterback window, which is late first round or after first round rookie quarterback window. And late first round is the best one because, remember, you get the 5th year option in the first round. So it's better than getting a quarterback in the 2nd or 3rd round where it's less money but less years. You get 5 years at a lower number. And, what have they done with that advantage versus the Browns, who had, the least advantage you can get with a rookie wage scale because he was the number 1 overall pick, surrounded him with much more talent. So that is the biggest criticism that I have of Eric DeCosta in Baltimore. And maybe in 10 years, if they don't ever win a championship with Lamar Jackson in Baltimore, they're going to look back at the lack of aggressiveness in that window and really be upset about it, because it is something there that should be noted about Eric DeCosta. I know everybody loves to give him praise in Baltimore, but that is a huge miss to me, that this offense hasn't gotten better despite Lamar getting significantly better than he was 2 years ago. The offense has not scaled up with him. That's not good for Eric DeCosta. Next question comes from Luke Tra, who says, assuming Njoku continues to develop at his current rate throughout the season, could you see the Browns trading away Austin Hooper in the offseason to get additional capital to keep the team younger and cheaper throughout the draft and avoid future cap hits? Well, that all comes at the question of, do you want to keep David Njoku and do you extend David Njoku, right? Because he's going to be in the contract year this year. So that comes at that question. Do you want to commit to David Njoku? I think at this point, right, I don't know what Austin Hooper's dead money is, but if his dead money after this year is a negligible amount, then yeah, I would say you could probably cut Austin Hooper and just keep David Njoku, right? The chemistry with Baker Mayfield's there. The history of him as a Cleveland Brown is there. And Austin Hooper just, as of right now, and again, it's been a season in one game, just hasn't worked worked out to the extent that we thought. So that's going to be an interesting question to see going forward. I don't know if it makes the Browns any younger. Well, they wouldn't be younger, but it wouldn't make them that much cheaper, just because you're going to have to give David Njoku his money if he has the type of season that he could be on pace to have. The next question comes from Victor Hunt, who says, who wears the green dot on Sunday, JJ3 or Malcolm Smith? It's probably going to be Malcolm Smith. All indications from how Joe Woods runs things is that he wants the middle linebacker to have the mic. So that's going to be what he's going to do. The next question comes from Raz Basil, who says, I know it was the Chiefs offense, but I'm pretty worried about our defense. Miles and Clowney only got home once. We had too many missed tackles. First guy should wrap the guy up. Second guy should go for the strip. We had too many guys being first tackler instead of making the tackle when they went for the strip. Do you think it's too early to panic about the defense? It's absolutely too early to panic about the defense. One, they were +2 on turnovers, and they held Kansas City under 30 points. I don't know how many other teams have done that. If somebody wants to do the research, I'm pretty sure it's been a significantly low amount of teams that have been able to be +2, well, +3 on turnovers, because Baker threw the interception, even though that didn't lead to points just because Kansas City didn't need to score points. So really +2 on turnovers. But anybody who's been +2 on turnovers versus Kansas City and has given up less than 30 points, I would love to see how many teams that is, because I don't think that's a lot of teams, and especially when Patrick Mahomes is playing for the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think the defense is fine. Look, if they miss tackles, I told you that was going to happen, because they didn't have a lot of these guys playing the preseason. And when you don't, I know everybody was cheering it on because everybody loves to, do the whole, we don't want anybody to get injured, so nobody should play during the preseason thing during the preseason. But one of the things I was saying is, hey, when you don't play your starters during the preseason, especially on defense, they're not going to be great tacklers at the beginning of the season. That's kind of what happened versus Kansas City. But again, it's not like it cost them the game. You can point to a lot of different things in that Kansas City game that cost the Browns the game. None of those things were on the defense, to be honest with you. Like, you might be able to say the whole Tyreek Hill to Patrick Mahomes throw was something that cost you the game. But are we really going to say that a Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes bomb touchdown is so rare that it cost the Browns the game versus a fumbled punt and a fumbled run and an interception at the last drive of the game? Nah, man, the defense did enough to win the game. The offense didn't do enough to secure the win, and that's why you didn't win that football game. I know a lot of people, it's popular to jump on Joe Woods just because he has not done the best of jobs here while he's been in Cleveland so far. But the fact of the matter is that when you look at that game on Sunday versus the Chiefs, if you're blaming the defense, I think you're just avoiding blaming other parts of the team that were more responsible for that loss at this point, because the defense put you in position to be able to get that win back, and the offense and special teams are what fumbled that game away, right? You don't lose that lead if Jamie Gillian doesn't fumble that punt. You don't get that game within 7 points if Nick Chubb doesn't fumble. And again, you still have a chance to win that game if Baker doesn't throw an interception at the end. That's the reasons you lost this game. The defense really had not that much to do about it. And I know everybody wants the Browns to shut down Travis Kelce or shut down Tyreek Hill. But to everybody who offers a simple solution to stopping Tyreek Hill or stopping Travis Kelce or making the Chiefs beat you with somebody else, point me to any time where the Chiefs have had a healthy offensive line where any other NFL team has made them do that. It just hasn't happened, and it hasn't happened for a reason. It's not because they're not thinking of the same things you're thinking of. It's because those things are a lot harder to implement and maybe impossible to implement versus the Kansas City Chiefs than we realize. So that is why they lost that game. That is what it is. That was week 1. I hope the defense looks great versus the Texans so people can give Joe Woods a little bit of a break, because I think a lot of criticism he's gotten this week has been unwarranted, to be honest with you. But that's it for this week's Q&A. Again, guys, thank you for watching. Have a great day and have a good night.